Today in Two Decent Blokes.
Does diversity include white people? First thing.
Oh my, he asked that.
If you cannot define diversity, I really don't know what usefulness you are to the society.
This case is not really about diversity.
How many times we weren't the ones chosen?
Yes.
Is there a check coming? Because we should have one.
It's not the same thing because you didn't have the job for 5 years.
There's this assumption amongst Black Americans in general that the courts always rule against Black people.
That is the point. So I don't see white as being included
That's
in
what I'm
diversity.
saying. No, because
So
I
she
give up.
read directly from the dictionary and
still
still
did
got
not
it
finish.
wrong.
You know,
Yeah.
if you go to a predominantly black school and a white person comes in, then the white person is the diversity in that scenario.
it's just discrimination. Okay,
Hey,
it's discriminating
preach,
against
sister,
discrimination.
preach.
Okay. Number one, they hired 2 women to replace 1 man. I got a problem with that.
You told her to preach to a company.
She doesn't even know.
Yeah, straight up feminism here.
Exactly.
Add to the situation, don't take away from the
Exactly.
situation.
When we had
I think this one would be a worse wide. What's the name? Performance is not the same. There's no equality of performance. It varies and it differs. That's why people get rewarded differently. This drive that they have to say a woman can do what a man can do, that is just a lie. It's not true.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
All right, welcome to the Decent Blogs. Today we have the real and the video on discrimination in the workplace, but this time it's on a white dude, and he went to court. And let's just say the reaction from the ladies is quite interesting, and actually it's also funny how they seem to not know what diversity actually means as a literal definition. So let's not waste time. Get into it.
First up, the state of North Carolina has many people scratching their heads as a jury awarded $10 million to a white former health executive for reverse discrimination. According to Fox 46 Charlotte, Duvall, a white man, was the senior vice president for marketing and communications at Novant for 5 years when he was fired and replaced by 2 women, one a racial minority. During a diversity and inclusion initiative in 2018 that included explicit goals to remake the demographics of Novant's senior leadership. According to his attorney, a jury in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Charlotte, North Carolina division decided that Duvall, stating in court records that Duvall proved that his race, Caucasian, and or his sex, male, was a motivating factor in Novant's health decision to terminate him. He's saying he lost his job because he was a white man. Ladies, please weigh in on this. Does diversity include white people, first thing?
Oh my
And how
goodness.
seriously do you think companies take complaints of discrimination?
Pause
I mean,
it.
let's be clear.
Unbelievable. What kind of a
Look
question
at
is
the smirk
that?
on her face, though. Like, look at the smirk on her face.
Yeah. It's what kind of does diversity include white people? She asked that.
Well, this is what you get when you have people who have no actual world knowledge and just basic education. This is basic education. If you cannot define diversity, I really don't know what usefulness you are to the society, not to speak of you speaking to millions every day.
I mean, her asking that question and sitting on a panel on which they are supposed to discuss something that can be as complicated as this case is amazing, really amazing. And also, this case is not really about diversity. It's about civil rights, not about diversity. This is about discrimination, which is a civil rights issue, not about diversity. But I get where she's saying, okay, the company wanted to fulfill some diversity quota, which is apparently true. When I was going through some of the court documents that I found, they actually had been into some sort of agreement with some other non-profit organizations to fill their board with with people that represent communities in which they are operating. So they wanted to remove a white guy and replace with a white woman and a black woman, which is what they did.
Well, they should have at least paid the people who they fired off to at least just get them to not, I guess, be salty.
Yeah, but you can't do that. You can't say I'm firing you, and maybe you can arrange for them to resign with huge severance and be honest that we are removing you from this position because we have this goal as an organization. Not to lie to the guy to say we are firing you because you are incompetent, which is what they were saying. When truly,
that's a little dodgy. I mean, I can understand that. I think either way, if they were explicit about how and why they were firing him, he would still actually have grounds to sue.
Yeah, but it maybe not. He will only have to sue them if they would go ahead and still fire him. But I'm talking about just a gentleman's discussion to say, look, this is where our organization is going. We want to hire women, and we think that we are removing you from your position for good reasons, for our organizational structure, and because it's unfair to you, we'll give you this amount of money, and they would have to agree before it gets to the courts. But anyway, it did go to the courts, and he got rewarded $10 million. And these women are saying it's too much.
Clear.
They're saying he shouldn't even have gotten anything.
Yeah, no, because discrimination didn't happen according to them.
$10 million, right? I feel like there's some checks waiting to come our way because how many times we did not get the job? How many times we weren't the ones chosen?
Yes.
Is there a check coming? Because we should have one. I think what's interesting is that the fact that it's...
No, woman, it's not the same thing because you didn't have the job for 5 years. You're talking about how many times did we not get the job? You're talking of someone that's applying for a job versus someone that's already in the job for 5 years. That's not the same thing.
Here's the thing. Even when you are applying the job, the law says, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it says that you cannot be discriminated against based on your race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So even when you are applying for a job and they deny you the job because of these factors, and you have proof, you can sue that company and also get paid whatever amount you want. So there's already protection for that under the law. So she's acting as if this law doesn't apply to black people. It applies to all Americans. You can also sue.
The truth is that she's angry because he's the one that got to have the balls to file and got paid. You didn't, then tough luck.
A woman, the fact that it was a black woman as well is really interesting, but I don't know if diversity includes white people because the whole diverseness is
airheads out
normally
here,
for
bro.
Urban, Asian, Hispanic. I don't know if it includes it. Like
Okay,
I really have a hard time trying to figure that out.
What is urban? What is that? Who is?
You get married to this, you're in trouble. Man, just this is stressful to listen to. I don't live with this woman. I don't know what I would do if I was to come home to this. This doesn't make any sense. How can someone be this? She's probably in her 30s, and she probably is in her 30s.
Yeah.
And she probably claims to be educated. How is this? Well, yeah, she is educated. She's indoctrinated because these colleges, this is exactly what they teach them. So yes, she's on spot. Like that makes very much sense in most of these new age type of I would say just education camps or indoctrination camps where they're told that diversity just means people of color.
It means preferential treatment.
Yeah.
That's right. So there's this assumption amongst Black Americans in general that the courts always rule against Black people. You hear stuff like, if he was Black, they would never treat Black people like that. Yet we have cases that prove in many times that Black people have been rewarded by juries and have gotten away with the same thing as they say Black people would never, get away with. I'm reminded of the time Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted for the self-defense that he did during that riot. That same day, a Black man was also acquitted for homicide, the same day. But still, they were saying that if Kyle Rittenhouse was a Black man, he would be serving life sentences right now.
False equivalence. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well,
Marcel,
diversity means. Go ahead.
I was like, Lonnie's either going to tell us, or I have the textbook dictionary
Go ahead.
meaning.
Okay,
so
wait.
the practice.
Wait. So she's going to read the textbook dictionary, right? Okay, let's see if she will get it.
Or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientations, etc. So it's different.
Yes.
That is the point. So I don't see white as being included
That's
in
what I'm
diversity.
saying.
No, because
So
I
she
give up.
read directly from the dictionary and
still
still
didn't
got it
understand
wrong. Different. She said different races, different backgrounds. She said all the different sexual orientation. It just has to be different. Is white not different from Black?
That's but Vincent, this is really sad. Why would you not think that it's almost, there's a reference. See, the racists are these people that think mostly like this.
Yeah.
Because if you think that white is the majority and that means default, and so white is not different because white is what's there, because I guess that's probably the way they look at it. But in some other context, in some other, in some other way of looking at things, white is not always the majority. White is actually different.
It depends on which room are you talking about.
Are you talking when you're in a predominantly Black neighborhood or predominantly Black church and a white person walks in? Yes, the white person is the different one. Is the diversity in that context,
according to her definition, at least.
Well, if you're talking about being different, if you go to a predominantly Black school and a white person comes in, then the white person is the diversity in that scenario.
Yeah. You remember when we were in high school, we had our entire high school, or let's talk about middle school. When we were in middle school, we had 3 white people in our school, and we had about 500 kids, and all of us were Black. So in that context, they are the ones that are.
The definition of diversity is not just written for America; it's written for the entire world. You see, you look at, it's only diversity because white people are the majority, but they didn't write Oxford Dictionary for Americans only. You know what I mean? You have to understand that these things are bigger than just you and your little issues that you're dealing with in America, for example. It's sad.
It is.
She read it
it's
out.
different. It depends on what the majority is. So
Right.
There's
if you're
that.
higher and the majority, look.
But in this case with this company,
That's
where diversity
is what there's 2 problems here. One is not reverse discrimination. It's just discrimination. Okay, you get discriminated,
preach, sister, preach.
Right. Number 1, they hired 2 women to replace 1 man. I got a problem with that. Number 2,
because
Hold on
one
a
woman
second.
could have.
I think you told her to preach too early. She has a problem with the fact that they hired 2 women to replace 1 man.
No,
This
because
is straight up feminism here.
No, because she's smart enough to see it's not a good look for women.
Is that what she's saying? I think she's saying that they were supposed only to hire 1 woman instead of 2 women.
Well, whichever way it happened, she can see though that it's not a good look for women.
Okay, play it.
Yeah. Then listen to this response.
Done the job.
Exactly.
It doesn't take 2 women
That tells you
to
about
do-
inequality. That we ain't gonna get on that, okay? But also, this is diversity through firing.
Wait, pause it for a little bit. You see how she got triggered.
Mm-hmm.
She got triggered. How can they replace 1 white guy with 2 women? You see, she's saying one woman could have done the job. Is she working for the human resources of the company?
She doesn't even know.
Yeah. Does she
the
know
level
the
of productivity
qualifications?
the guy
Yeah.
that did and these women did.
Yeah. Does she know
And in
the
this-
qualifications of these women?
And you know, in this very same example right here, we just debunked the pay gap right here.
Yeah.
Because if this guy was getting paid for two people now, and these two, I'm pretty sure if they were to do the right thing, they would have to divide his salary between these two.
Yeah, because
I'm sure
if
they
are
would
doing
not
the
do
same
it.
job,
Yeah.
they're doing sharing responsibilities, definitely. And also, she is saying one woman. Which woman is she talking about? Is this a particular woman, or is she saying that any woman can do any job that a man can do? And remember, this is senior vice president of marketing for a big healthcare company that has over 350 employees. So it's not an easy job. I'm a man, and I'm pretty sure I can't even do that job.
No, without
here-
experience, the same experience and qualifications,
Yeah.
yes, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So her
You're in
audacity
trouble.
to say it only takes one woman can do, you see that it's a reaction.
Emotions.
Yeah, it's a reaction into her talking points. She's been triggered. Feminism is coming out, wanting to defend women at all costs.
Instead of diversity through hiring. That is the main problem.
Yeah.
So, of course, this man has a right because he was actually over the marketing. If you look at his pedigree was great.
Yeah.
You know, they could not give in the court files, they could not give an excuse of why.
They fired
just said,
him.
"Oh, we're gonna
Right.
let it be known." So you're gonna have cases like this
Come up.
if you don't hire diverse. You
In
can't
the first
fire
place.
diverse in
You
the first
can't
place.
fire someone in
Right.
order to bring in diversity, is what you're saying. You're saying
Exactly.
add to the situation, don't take away from
Exactly.
the situation.
When we had
You can't.
I'll submit to you, man. I think this one would be a worse wife. What's her name? Lana? This one next to what's her name?
Israel Hilton's wife. I don't remember
Yo,
her name.
oh yeah, I was surprised that she's. Oh my goodness me! It's
He married a feminist.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
A Christian feminist. Worst kind there is actually. If you guys want, I will be happy to give you a whole spiel over this at some point. But yeah,
And here's what I want to say just before we proceed. Men and women are different and they perform differently on different tasks. There are some things that women in general are better at than men. It just is reality. And within men themselves, a different man performs better than another man. And within races of men who are black will do some things differently than men who are white. And even amongst the same individual will perform differently on different days.
it's not the same.
Performance is not the same. There's no equality of performance. It varies and it differs. That's why people get rewarded differently, because they perform differently on different tasks. This drive that they have to say a woman can do what a man can do, that is just a lie. It's not true at all.
No, they know. They just think that. I mean, we've been playing along with this lie for far too long because we want to get with these women, and so we'll be like, oh yeah, you know what, you are definitely the same as me, and it's sad. But I'll tell you this though, this whole you have to hire diverse. There's nothing called hire diverse. If you're serious about getting the best of the best as far as workforce is involved, you find out you will end up with a very lopsided or almost seemingly discriminatory looking task force of, oh yeah, well, certain groups are good at certain types of jobs and you are not going to be able to equalize that.
Yeah, it will be a skewed distribution. It's not going to be a linear distribution because, like I said, people are different and they perform different jobs differently.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Jordan Peterson said something closer to this about that when he was saying that if you're looking for a certain type of worker with a certain level of skill, you'll find that in certain demographics, you're not going to be able to find enough people qualified and able to be that type of worker. That if you are solely focused on getting certain numbers of certain people in demographics, let's say women, or let's say black people, or let's say whichever, Asian people, whichever, you might end up with a problem where you now just have people in areas that are not going to give you the same output as certain people that, you would probably be trying to discriminate against to be able to get that diversity. So yeah. Companies that are doing this, I don't know why they are doing it.
Well, they are doing it as a response to social pressure. And we are getting to a point where even in corporations, right, the pressure from these groups is incentivizing them to make even these decisions that could be financially costly. But they are not going to be tolerated for a long time, because up to a certain point, when it starts being too unprofitable, or when the cost is going to be too much compared to the benefits of the clout that they get and the social approval that they get, they might stop doing it at some point.
They'll drop it. They'll definitely drop it. Let's finish.
When we had affirmative action, this is when we were actually diversifying our corporations.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to figure out
goodness.
ways to do it. And so they're going to have these issues of people getting sued and getting a lot of money
Pause it.
because you can't do that.
And contain yourself.
I have I have a lot to say about this. Give me like 3 minutes straight. Okay. You see how she talks about affirmative action? It's almost as if it's a foregone conclusion that is a good thing. And to our audience listening to us right now, I would challenge anyone to cite an example in history when affirmative action has ever helped any lagging group. In the United States, for example, the government right now has all kinds of affirmative action programs for Native Americans, but the Native Americans themselves, they are still the most lagging group. And these affirmative action programs, they started way back, even before Civil Rights Act. They were trying to help Native Americans get out of their situations, but they are still there. They are the most lagging group right now. And all affirmative action programs designed to help Black people made them worse off. From social welfare to these programs in the early 2000s for home ownership, they were designed to help more Black people, poor people, to become homeowners, and it ended up causing the 2008 financial crisis, leaving those same people in a situation where they were worse off. In Zimbabwe, the government did the same thing. And look at where Zimbabwe is right now. In Nigeria, in Malaysia, in India, I could go on. Affirmative action has never worked. Giving preferential treatment to minority groups or so-called disadvantaged groups has never helped anyone except the politicians who ran on that platform and manipulated people's emotions to get voted in. What affirmative action does is increase the cost of doing business with the group that has preferential treatment, while it lowers the standards for the group that is trying to catch up to the otherwise higher standards, the higher standards of the other groups. Like, for example, if you look at enrollment in American universities, when they enroll Black students using affirmative actions, using lower standards than would otherwise people would qualify, you find out that those same students are more likely to drop out of university when they realize they cannot cope with the curriculum or meet the higher standards of performance when they go to these Ivy League schools where they do not qualify. With employment, for example, those groups, they tend to start looking, they tend to start to start being looked at as if they are undeserving or incompetent because they've been hired to fill a quota. So imagine
you don't know who's there for their marriage.
You imagine these women, they might be qualified to actually perform at a senior vice president of marketing, but because now everyone knows that they were hired just to fulfill a diversity quota, they will lose respect. And respect, we know in the professions, that is one of the instruments that will take your career higher. When you perform, people respect you and you get more opportunities. Now, it actually stifles you when that happens.
And you're taking away the opportunity for them to prove themselves that they actually can do it.
And
most of these people, you can almost argue they would always find a place in a school or a company if they they were led to look for that entry position themselves anyway, if they were qualified.
The crazy part is most of these people who advocate for these things, right? You wouldn't do that to your kids. You wouldn't say, you know what, you didn't do what I wanted you to do, but you're still going to get the reward anyway. I told you to clean your room.
That's actually how they are doing it. See, you wouldn't do that to your kid.
But they're doing
exactly what they're doing to their kids. That's why we have people that walk into companies, for example, like this case we're talking about. I'm pretty sure if these women worked in that company, they would feel very entitled to the 10 million that man got, because everybody was always a winner anyway growing up. It doesn't make any sense. He's the guy that took the cost of engaging a lawyer, and he took the risk
for
of
2
going
years,
against
by the way.
company. Exactly. Took initiative, and then you are sitting in an air-conditioned room. You did not put anything on the line, talking about, well,
why did I get a check?
Why did he get that? Like, it's a lot of like just toxicity. I don't know.
Oh, by the way, here's what is interesting. On the court documents about this case, they were 6 of the jurors were white and 2 of them were women, and the lead juror, the one who was called the foreman or something like that, was a black person, like a black man, I think. So there were women on that jury. There was a black dude in that jury, and there were other 4, I think, 4 other guys, 4 white guys, I think. And they decided, after hearing the deliberations, that this man deserves $10 million. So you can see that they are trying to even racialize it, but they were represented, their voices at least were represented by a black peer on that jury.
Yeah. Well, thank God people are not as racist as these women are out there. But we'll probably end it right here because it's gone on long enough. But what do you guys think? What do you think? Does this man deserve $10 million? I mean, if you worked at a company for 5 years and you were fired unjustly, and you can tell they did that just to at least put someone else in your position, you obviously know is not even qualified for it. Would you be a little pissed off and decide to go down the route this guy went? Do you think it was right for him to get that much amount of money? Let us know in the comment section. On the 2 Decent Blokes, we out.
See ya.
Okay.